Welcome to Funnel Hacker Radio Podcast, where we go behind the scenes and uncover the tactics and strategies top entrepreneurs are using to make more sales, dominate their markets, and how you can get those same results. Here's your host, Dave Woodward.
Hey everybody, welcome to Funnel Hacker Radio. You guys are in for such a treat today. I can't even tell you how excited I am to introduce you to one of my best friends in the world, a total rock star, and actually to me, he's been the godfather of internet marketing. Welcome, Jonathon Mizell. Jonathon, welcome, bud.
Thank you so much, Dave. It was really an honor to be here, man.
Oh my gosh, you had me in stitches. We've been sitting here just laughing our head off. I should have recorded that beforehand so everyone understood it. Oh man, we were just talking about sales and Russell closing for the sale.
Professional. I was trying to be all professional just now, just by being quiet, but then I had to hold it back because right before you gave me that wonderful introduction, we were just cracking up about all kinds of stuff. Anyway, I am so honored to be here. I'm a huge fan of you, of Russell, of ClickFunnels, of everything that you've done, everything that you teach the community, everything that you share with people. You guys are total rock stars as well, and thanks for having me on the show.
Oh, I'm so excited. I've been looking forward to this. This has been a lot of fun. It was just, again, for those of you guys who weren't listening because we weren't recording, we just had the funniest experience out. I'm just going to try to quick little synopsis here. The first time I actually met you, Jonathon, face to face that I remember was actually out at Buck Risby's event. We were sitting there and you're basically telling your partner saying, listen, we're going to go meet with Russell. Do not bring your wallet. Because you weren't going to buy it. And sure enough, what happens? You ended up buying ClickFunnels right there on the spot. Anyways, I don't have time to go through the whole thing, but I was dying laughing, and maybe I'll actually take the recording and put that on the end as some edits. I don't know. But anyways, for everyone who's listening, I want to dive right in because you guys are in for such a treat. Jonathon is like the master when it comes to really the part of the funnel that matters the very, very most. So I'm not going to take away his thunder, but Jonathon, let's just dive right in. Let's talk about what is the most important part to really the whole idea of building funnels.
So when we think of funnels, we usually think of what I call the front end, or I work with a lot of sites that are membership sites, so we'll call it the registration path, or the part where someone actually gives you their email address. Hugely important, right? I mean, we're always talking about building a list, or getting a tribe, or generating an audience, and all that is fantastic. But the part of the funnel that I think is the most important part is the messaging. It's the emails that you actually send out afterwards. Everybody talks about building a list, and almost nobody talks about turning that list into money. And that list gets turned into money when you create, and we're talking about something that I just decided we're going to talk about just like 30 seconds ago, which is it's called a new user experience. And so let's back up for a second. So you have a website and you're using ClickFunnels, right? Or any system that captures opt-ins, right? Someone comes to the site, they opt into the page, and then they go, maybe there's a one-time offer, maybe they get taken to a sales page, maybe they get taken to some content or a video or a know-like trust piece where there's like some sort of like connection building, or maybe it's an indoctrination video where you're teaching them something and giving them your philosophy. And maybe there's something to buy, maybe there's not, right? Usually there's something on the front end. When you look at a more sophisticated funnel, there's usually some way for the user to give you some money. I don't know how familiar people are with the term, but we call that a self-liquidating offer. So you buy some advertising, you throw it into this funnel, squeeze page, post opt-in page, and then maybe there's a one-time offer or a little something for them to purchase. But the real money almost always does not come from that very first experience, that registration path experience. What it comes from is the emails that you send, and mostly, sometimes it's longer than this, but mostly it's in the first 30 days. So maybe they've heard of you, maybe they know something about you, they see an ad or they see something on Facebook or they get an email or something. They go to the page, they register, give you their email address, they learn a little bit about you. Now the real selling starts, and it doesn't start with 2-hour VSL. Some people will go for that. In my opinion, where it starts is when you start emailing them, when you start sending them messages. Does that make sense?
Oh, yeah. No, I totally believe in that.
So
let's dive in. How do you do it? What do you do next?
So the thing that I like to do is I like to map out what I call the 30-day experience. And I write a lot of follow-up sequences, a lot of indoctrination sequences. And an indoctrination sequence is just a follow-up sequence, but it really is trying to prove a point. Like we do a lot of stuff in the health space. So you take diabetes, right? We'll just use that as an example. So conventional medicine says you have to take all these drugs to cure your diabetes. Alternative medicine says that you can do it with diet and some supplementation and some lifestyle changes. So an indoctrination sequence, basically, it's just a whole bunch of content, whole bunch of follow-ups, maybe some articles, some videos that indoctrinates the user to your way of thinking. Now, if someone, in this particular example, if someone is just dead set against any alternative medicine stuff, if they're rooted in the conventional medicine world, well, you're not going to indoctrinate them, and they're going to probably get off your list, and that's fine because they're never going to be one of your customers. But if there's a chance that the person, the prospect, the subscriber might be interested, then this is your opportunity to try to change their mind, try to give them a mindset, and the way to do that, in our opinion, is with email. And those emails, what I'll typically do is I'll pull up my calendar, and I'll look at, and this is like something that we do with all our clients, but it's also something that we teach in our, like the Email Traffic Academy and in some of our other courses. So we'll take a calendar and we'll actually figure out what that 30-day experience is all about. So someone comes and they subscribe, and then they go through whatever process they go through in this registration process, give you their email and the thank you page. Now, the very first message is when you begin the process of know, like, trust, when you begin the process of trying to shift their mindset, or if they have some mindset, there's this whole idea that we want to join the conversation already going on in the prospect's mind. Some cases, it's not totally where you want them to be, but we'll try to pick that apart, figure out what we can say to that prospect to get that prospect on our side, to get that prospect on our team, and more so that the prospect knows that we're on their team, right?
I love that. No, I think that's I know for us, even in Russell's book, he talked about that. He kind of coined it, the whole soap opera sequence, as far as that indoctrination of captivating them to the point where they feel like, again, like what you just said, they literally start thinking just like you do. I think that's awesome.
That's right, actually. And let's talk a little bit about that soap opera sequence. So that's a phrase that I first heard by my friend Andre Chaperone.
That's where Russell got it.
Right, And so what he does is, and this is what we recommend as well, is he basically creates his email sequence like a hit TV show, like Homeland,
yeah,
or Game of Thrones. Now, what's your favorite show, Dave? Do you have any? Do you watch any of those shows?
Actually, I have watched those, and what was I? Let's go with those right now for the sake of time.
Okay, Homeland, right? So let me ask you: have you ever seen a game or an episode of Homeland that is it just you're satisfied at the end? You don't ever need to see another one. Everything completely resolves. Everyone ends up, happy and married and satisfied. No, never. That's not the way that those shows work. So we like to take this content that we send to people, specifically over the first month, and we also put little teasers in there, little PSs. A great way to do this is you can throw a little PS in there and say what you're going to give them tomorrow. Say, back to that diabetes thing. Tomorrow I'll tell you about a PS. Tomorrow, I'll tell you about a supplement that you can take that will help, even out your blood sugar. It's inexpensive and totally safe. Now, what happens is when you give a PS like that, people who have a problem with diabetes or have whatever problem you've got, but in this case, they have a problem with diabetes, now they're going to be looking forward to your email tomorrow, just like they'd be looking forward to seeing whether Carrie is going to catch the bad guy or whether, on the Game of Thrones, Cersei's going to have her comeuppance, or whether, what's down the hatch in Lost, right? And so there's a lot of these, we like to throw a lot of these teasers in there. I don't want to say that the whole thing is, about the soap opera sequence, but the soap opera sequence is the way we get people continuing to read and look forward to the messages that we're going to be sending them. So typically what we'll do is we'll take our calendar and we'll come up, and we send a lot of email, by the way. If someone subscribes to your email list, the worst thing you can do is offend them by not sending them any email. Someone says, I would like you to send me some email on this particular topic of my diabetes, or, my improving my home, or of making more money on the internet, or of growing giant tomatoes, or whatever the pitch is, whatever the offer is that you have to sell, the product, the problem you're solving, the solution. They've given you their permission. So we will typically send out in 30 days between 15 and 30 emails. It really depends. We'll go at least once every other day, or 3 times a week. And we'll figure out what the message that we want to give them on that particular day is. And like I say, we map it all out on a whiteboard or on a calendar, and we just write our subject lines. And that's all we do. We just figure out the subject lines and what the premise of that email is. And then we write our emails, and then we throw our soap opera stuff in there, which is the PS, or one thing that I see all the time. I usually start my sequences with a soap opera trigger, where I'll say, Dear Dave, in 4 days, I'm going to send you an ebook about blah, blah, blah. But for now, today, I want to tell you something that I think is even more important that you know before I send you the ebook. Now, I then tell them the information I want to tell them, but in the back of their mind, they're like, well, where's this ebook? I want to get that ebook. And I don't mention it again. I don't, I just, and another way, if we look at hypnosis or neuro-linguistic programming, NLP, that's also called an open loop.
Oh, yeah.
And, right? When you open up a loop, the mind wants that loop closed, and it will not be satisfied until that loop is closed. So throughout my entire sequence, I'm constantly opening loops, and then before I close them, I open another one.
And John, so I'm going to stop you right there real quick, because I want to make sure we drive this home for people.
Yes,
This is open loops, to me, are one of the most important parts in email sequences that too many people forget about. And they're so worried about getting their content out that they don't understand how important an open loop is. And especially when you're going, because you said basically in a period of 30 days, you're going to send 15 to 30 emails. That's a lot of content. Yeah. And I think that if I really want to make sure everyone understands, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but I really want to drive this home. For those of you guys who are listening to this right now, if you're not using open loops in your emails and in your messaging, I want you to pay super close attention to what Jonathan's going to say right now, because these are the most important part in your emails to get people engaged and waiting, literally anticipating like they can't wait for the next episode to come because of what John's going to tell you right now.
That's right. People want that loop to be closed, and your job is to never have a satisfied customer until they buy. Okay, I don't think you should frustrate them after they purchase whatever it is you're selling. You can give them that satisfaction, right? You can make them happy. But until that point, you need to keep them engaged, because if you have something that's important, if you have a message or an ebook or a product or an app or a course or a supplement that is going to change the world, and you legitimately believe in that product, then you have a responsibility to get that product into as many hands as possible. We can both agree on that.
Absolutely.
Right? I mean, you have a responsibility. And if you don't do that, not only do you deprive the world of that product, but you deprive yourself of the reward and the income. And then you have to go back to whatever lousy job you probably left, and then the only person you're serving is your boss. And there's no problem with that. I mean, I don't want to diss people who want to do that, but we're all entrepreneurs. I'm presuming that everybody listening to this is an entrepreneur, and they have a dream. They want to make something of their business, of themselves. They have a goal. They want to change the world. And so the way to do that is to keep the people in your tribe, the people who have said, I want your information, engaged. And the way to keep them engaged is to continuously send them information that helps them, to constantly be pitching and selling your product. Maybe pitch isn't the right word for some of the less salesy people. We'll just say promoting or offering your product, right? You know, I work with a lot of authors and a lot of the people in markets where the word pitch is not good. Hopefully we're all marketers here, but if you're an author and you're a softer sell, we'll just say you're offering or sharing or trying to get someone to give you the money. And
Bottom
the way
line
that
is you're pitching, man. You're pitching and you're pitching hard.
you're pitching, okay, right? We just go right for it. You're pitching, and you're doing it in such a way that keeps people engaged. And the way to keep people engaged, the easiest way and the most effective way, is to use open loops in your email. So when we start our sequence, we usually set up an open loop, and it won't be resolved or fixed until day 4 or day 5. And on the second email, I will usually send out more content. On the third email, I might actually ask them to buy and give them the order form link or the sales page or the VSL link, but I'll open another loop in that email. And then sometimes I like to do this fake out. Sometimes I'll say, okay, tomorrow I'm going to send you this book, right? I love this one. And then tomorrow rolls around and the email says, you know, Dave, I said that I was going to send you this book today, and I'm going to, I promise. But I'm not going to do it right now because I have something else that's way more important to share with you today. Now, tomorrow, first thing in your inbox, 7 in the morning, you can open up your email. The ebook will be in there. But right now, this other thing is more important. And if we do it correctly, that other thing also opens a loop that won't be closed until next week. And so what these loops do, the soap opera sequence, which, by the way, is named after soap operas because there's probably some younger people on this list. Are there still soap operas? There's got to be, right? I don't watch TV, but when I was growing up, when Dave and I were growing up, when we were all the old guys were growing up, there were these shows, right? Like General Hospital and One Life to Live and Days of Our Lives. And these were these soap operas, and all they did is open loops. That's all they did all day. Like you didn't know who killed who or who's having whose baby or, who's like disappears or who's going into the hospital or what they're in the hospital for. What's that? The most famous open loop, I think, of all. And this is how powerful this is. And again, if you're really young, you might not remember this, but the loop is who shot JR. When we were growing up, Dave remembers there was a show called Dallas. And Dallas was this show. It was like a nighttime soap opera, right? And it was just this, story after story after story and all these characters. And somebody at the end of one of the seasons shot the main character. His name was JR. And nobody knew who shot JR. And this was before the internet, folks. But this was such a powerful experience that I remember seeing the newspaper the next day where it said, who shot JR? Like this was the question. People were talking about it at work. People were talking about it in the media. People were talking about it everywhere. And not only do these open loops get people expecting, but they get people talking, they get people thinking, and ultimately they get people buying and consuming, which is exactly what we want them to do.
I love that. Oh my gosh, open loops to me have been, again, because there's so much psychology behind it. It's really crazy. It's like there's no other way of being able to experience unless you've actually gone through it, and you're like, I have to have closure. It just drives people crazy when they can't get closure. It's like, please, I mean, you could have said something 4 or 5, 6 hours ago, and that stuck with them. They're like, I don't care about anything you said for the last 4 hours. Just tell me, how do you close that part down? So I think it's awesome.
That works, by the way. It works in VSLs. It works to get people to watch your whole VSL. In fact, John Benson has the famous open loop. I can't remember what he calls it. He's got a name for it. But at the very beginning of, if you follow his formula, of all of his VSLs, it says, my name is Bob, and this is, a Chihuahua. And in a few minutes, I'm going to tell you how this Chihuahua can help you get rich on the internet. But now, first, I need to tell you about blah, 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 right? So you can do this in VSLs. You can do it in sales letters. You can do it when you're doing presentations. You can do it on the phone with prospects. You can do it on a date. Imagine that. You pick up your date, meet somebody, right? You want to go out with them, pick them up in the car, and you say, before the night's up, I'm going to give you something. But before we talk about that, how's your day? Now, this person who you just picked up on a date, you're taking them out to dinner, they're going to be like, oh my God, what's he going to give me? I mean, it doesn't even have to be anything like big. You make it a joke ring, like a Cracker Jack ring or something. You could have fun with it. But it is such a psychologically powerful way to keep people engaged. Now, I want people to think that it's just all about open loops. You actually have to have some content. You want to be engaged with people. You want to figure out who those people are. Whenever I sit down to write a sequence, and even before, like I'll get my calendar out or my whiteboard out, and I'll think about, all the messages I'm going to write. I'll write 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Like I said, I write my subject lines first, try to get the premise of it. I talk about in my course, and I think you guys probably mentioned it, and I know Russell's mentioned it a number of times, the idea of an avatar, right?
Oh, yeah.
So the avatar is that ideal customer, and the avatar is the person that you're writing to. So if you're selling a diet pill to women in their 45 through 55, I like to picture a woman. I'd give her a name, Jennifer. She's a mom. She's got 2 kids. She drives a minivan. She lives in a 4-bedroom house. She's, 41 pounds overweight. She's frustrated. I like to figure out who that person is. And then I will specifically write that message to Jennifer. I'll even, when I'm writing my drafts, I'll even say, "Dear Jennifer," because I got her in my head. Now, I'll go back before I load them into my autoresponder system and actually put, insert first name here and all that stuff. But I found that knowing who the prospect is, figuring out that 30-day experience, engineering that 30-day experience, figuring out when we want to send them back into the site, when we want to send them back to a sales page or some content, or maybe we go from some content to a sales page. Getting that whole thing mapped out beforehand is very, very powerful. And the reason that I think this is really it's given short attention. It's not given a lot of attention because, it's work.
Yeah. No, it totally is.
Tell you that you can just, like you just put this magic thing and press this button and then people will buy. Well, okay, it's work to go ahead and write a sequence, but it's all stuff that you're going to need to know anyway. And if you really care about helping people, it doesn't matter. There's nothing probably more interesting to you than to learn who that avatar is. And then the most important reason is because most customers, like 80% probably, will not buy on the first visit. They're just not going to buy.
Yeah.
They don't know who you are. Well, Gary Halbert said the reason people don't buy from you is they don't believe you. You make these outlandish claims. You say all the stuff is going to help them, and they just got give me a $49.95, and you're going to solve their problems. So they don't believe you, and the reason they don't believe you is because they don't know you. So that's what this email sequence does. That's what this engineered experience does. It gives them a know, like, trust experience. It indoctrinates them into your way of thinking. It reminds them or establishes you as a credibility. And then when you add the soap opera sequence or the open loops to it, they actually read all these messages. I'll tell you something. I'm sure this happens to you guys too, because I know you guys use a lot of open loops. One of the things that happens when you send open loops in your email is, because not everybody gets every message, right? Sometimes the internet gods accidentally delete stuff, or people accidentally delete stuff on their phone or whatnot. If you don't send in 5 days that ebook, or if they don't get that message, on day 6, you'll have a whole bunch of people emailing you saying, "Hey, where's the ebook? Did you forget?"
Isn't that crazy? I tell you, that's so funny. I love that.
It's weird. When you there's another little trick I'll go ahead and give to people. I love this one. One of the things I like to do on my very first message, I'll do the open loop on the front, right? On the PS, I have a first message PS I pretty much always use. It says, hey Dave, tell me, what's your biggest question about curing your diabetes with natural supplements? ? Hit reply and let me know. So what this does is it does 3 things. First of all, it establishes a connection between you and the person, right? Because there's a dialogue, you're going back and forth. The second thing is you find out what their biggest question is. It gives you market research data. You actually look at those responses and be like, wow, we better build this in 8 out of 10 people want to know about NAC or, thymus root or whatever, right? And then the third thing is, and this is a big one, it tells Google you're not a spammer.
Yeah, I love that.
Right? Because
absolutely.
Or Yahoo or whoever the mail program that the subscriber is using, if it's just one-way communication, broadcast after broadcast, they're like, eventually they might start sticking you into that, spam box or promotions box or whatever. But if people are emailing you back, even like 5% of them, Google and Yahoo and Hotmail and AOL are going to be like, well, usually spammers don't get dialogue going on. He must be a real person that's providing some value. So that's a really good one. And that also, again, it creates that engagement. Now, when you send that second email or you start closing some of the loops that you open, people are going to open that email. Now, if you can, by the way, have your customer service people aggregate those information or those responses from the PS, and then respond back to the customer that says, "Thank you so much. That was so nice of you. We had no idea that, we hadn't heard that before," or whatever, right? I mean, be honest, give them an honest response. So, so the email sequence is really the thing that over the course of the 30, 60, 90 days, over the course of the lifetime value, that's how people are going to become engaged and ultimately decide to spend more money with you.
I love it. Jonathan, I literally could spend days talking to you because I mean, you've got so much experience and just, again, you've built so many 7 and 8 figure businesses. I just hope people understand who they've been listening to. I mean, you were just, I love your experience because you speak with having so much authority. It's just awesome. But tell me, as we kind of get close to wrapping things up here, Jonathan, tell me, what's the best way people can reach out to you?
Well, probably the best way is you can go to Mizell.com or JonathanMizell.com, or you can go to the Email Traffic Academy. That's emailtrafficacademy.com. And if we're open, this is our email training. We talk about how to get traffic, how to build your list, and then what to actually say to the list to convert those prospects into customers. If we're open, you can go ahead and pick it up right away. You probably should, because we only open up it's really only every 3 months to the general public. We like to keep our membership limited. We do coaching with all of our customers. We just include that, and so we can't handle too many people at one time, because otherwise by the way, I do all the coaching in the Email Traffic Academy myself. I don't have like coaches or anything. I go in and I answer every single question that people ask. So, I only have so much time. So when we open, you want to pick that up. You want to get in on that. And if we're not open, just leave your email address there. There's an opt-in form, and we'll let you know when we open up that course.
And if nothing else, you ought to do that just so you can follow the email sequence that's going to happen as soon as you opt in. So awesome. Love it. Well, Jonathan, any parting words you want to tell the listeners here at Funnel Hacker Radio?
You rock, Dave. That's it. You rock. Russell rocks. ClickFunnels rocks. And I want to thank you guys for everything you've done for the industry, for all the people that you've helped. I see your testimonials out there, the people who are sharing the experiences they've had with your products and services, and it's wonderful and it's very inspiring. And I want to thank you for having me on the podcast.
Well, my pleasure, Jonathan. Thank you so much, bud. We'll talk to you real soon.
Honored. See you, Dave.
Thanks for listening to Funnel Hacker Radio Podcast. If you'd like to be notified anytime we release a new episode, just subscribe over at funnelhackerradio.com. In addition to that, we'd love to send you a free gift. You can find that free gift at funnelhackerradio.com/free trial. One last thing is we love giving away cars. So if you'd like access to a free dream car, all you have to do is go to funnelhackerradio.com/dream car and you'll get all the details. Thanks again for listening.